Tell me what's a happy family. Is it taking pictures on the gram saying they a team? Or the picture of a dad simply in a scene? Cause a nigga got no racks, so he hella busy.
Alright. Hey everyone. So this basically took the whole day from me. I've been trying to figure out the best way to do this Q&A thing, and life just wasn't working. I tried some softwares, screen recorders, and audio was not so good. I couldn't get it figured out. There was latency issues. Some flutters. I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the Happy Family Q&A mixing session and whatever the heck this is video. I'm Thapelo Mashiane, the producer, engineer, and artist. Main artist for the song, and I'll be taking you through the mix and answering any other questions that I might have gotten from people regarding this song. I'm just gonna open up a page so I can access the necessary questions. But I know the first one was from Bobby Lock. Bobby Lock asked me how I got the sound to feel so live. Sorry for the noise, by the way. There appears to be some sort of storm out there, out of nowhere. So yeah, I'm sorry for any clarity issues that you might face. Here we go. All right. So the first question was how I got the sound to feel so live. First of all, my choice of instruments, I chose a trombone and a bass guitar. It's not a crowded mix sonically, production wise, I guess. Yeah, production wise, it's not a crowded song. There's only two instruments. It's just the trombone, it's just the bass guitar, and so I was able to actually keep most of the elements that make those sounds. For example, with the trombone, first thing I did, I hope you can, okay, let me bring the mixer here. I think it would be easier that way. Yeah, so let's go to the trombone. It's right there. Sorry if you can't see clearly. The first thing I did was some compression. I used the V-comp from Waves, and I had the analog at 50%. I hardly even used this analog, but I was able to get a bit of that warmth from it by doing so. I have a pretty slow release on this. Input is quite high, so I'm basically trying to squash this trombone a bit so I can get as much warmth from it as I can without making it sound too bassy, I guess, or without taking too much space from the bass guitar, obviously. So yeah, my input is quite high. Output I didn't touch. I kept at 0. I didn't do any makeup gaining on this. So I'm gonna try play this without alarms. yeah, so I'm gonna try play the trombone as a solo. Let's take this out. Yeah, so without this and without any sends, this is what we have. So with my compression in there, so yeah, it brings it kind of closer. It adds a bit of warmth, but I'm not sure if that's coming through on the phone microphone. But yeah, I hope this works out actually. So then after that, I had some EQing going. It's a broad EQ that I use mainly for tone, without being too like itty bitty about, without being too surgical. Yeah, it's quite broad. What I did was boost a bit on the 30K just to add a bit of aggression to it. Yeah, that's what just to add a bit of aggression to it. And then I boosted. I would say it kind of adds a shelf, a low shelf. I boosted a bit by 1.4 on the low end, boosted a bit of the high end 3K, and then I have this attenuation going on, which is kind of bringing down again in the highs. This EQ works pretty weird, but I know, but it has a certain effect where I can boost and attenuate around the same frequency. Basically, I did that to control any brightness that might come from adding this aggression, and this is what you get. Without, with, so it's still powerful, but um, it feels more alive, I would say. And then I added something to smoothen it out, the CLA2A. I add this to my brass a lot. It's I don't know, it just does it for me. This is my go-to compressor for brass. Just make it feel smoother. All right, and then let's go to my sends. All I have is some reverb and a brass delay. Let's switch these off. I don't even think I used those. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, so I have a reverb going on. Let's bring this back. And my reverb is pretty much the same one I used for my vocals. I don't normally do that. I usually have a separate reverb send for my beat, but for this I wanted it to feel like the same performance in the same room, nothing controlled. I wanted that feeling, and so I used the same reverb, just a bit less of it. So let's go to that trombone channel, the sends. There we have that reverb. So I'm not sending the whole signal, I'm only sending minus 6.36 of it. And I'm sending it to this channel, which is my reverb channel. So I'm just gonna try bring it. All right, so this is my reverb, and I'm gonna play it with before I actually go through explaining why the reverb is a chain. Okay, just so you can hear the tail. So yeah, let's go into the reverb. Ah, yeah, man. Let's switch these off to avoid any latency and all that. So yeah, reverb. First thing I did, I cut out some frequencies, just so my whatever audio is coming into this reverb channel is not the full yeah, it's not just a copy of that audio. I filter it a bit just so my reverb is not too bassy, too bright, and it's more in the airy section. So I'm cutting at around 739 hertz. I'm cutting at around, on the high end I use the shelf because I don't want to lose the whole brightness. I want the tail to have a bit of that brightness, because that's just what I was hearing in my head. I don't have a technical reason why. It was just what I was hearing in my head. And then I did a bit of boosting around 1.2 hertz, and that just gave me a bit of air. That's a boost of 0.82 dBs. So I'm just gonna try say some of these values just in case you guys can't see that clearly. So yeah, that was the first thing I did, and then I added some distortion to it. So I distorted the signal coming into this reverb so that it kind of stood out as its own signal, I guess. Yeah, I wanted it to stand out. It's a tip I got from a YouTube video I saw regarding reverbs, and I've used it in so there's this Abbey Road plates reverb that I use sometimes, and it has a distortion knob in it, and I've used that, but I've never actually thought of using a distortion plugin in my chain for my reverb. And so when they pointed that out, I was like, oh, that makes sense. And so I tried it out, and it worked for this. So yeah, it made my reverb signal more present because I didn't want the reverb to be too high. So yeah, giving it a bit of presence without having it be too big or too high, volume wise. So yeah, all that comes before my actual reverb, which I used Pro R for. Pro R is a new plugin I got. I haven't figured it out completely, so I still end up going back to my favorites, which are Abbey Road plates and R-verb and H-reverb. Those are three of the reverbs I use most, but for some reason I kept this reverb on this song. Anyway, it's relatively easy. I just haven't figured out this area yet, where you set your decay rate EQ and your actual output EQ. But once you actually mess around with the knobs and you're lucky enough to find a sound that works while you're messing around with it, then you can be quite impressed with what it can do. My stereo width is quite wide, but even with that I usually add some imaging to my reverb, but we'll get to that. So I set my character, my brightness, I set it to be a bit dark. It's a bit of a dark song. I set my distance to be a bit far, feel spacey, I guess, yeah. And it's got quite a bit of a decay rate. It's quite long, it's quite spacious, and I'm sending the whole mix through because it's on its own channel. Pre-delay is quite slow, so that it has that emptiness to it. It gives the vocal space and whatever instrument is going through it to do its thing, and then it comes after. So far, let me play what it sounds like. I'm gonna push it up a bit. So that's what the delay, the reverb sounds like. Let me take out the EQ and the distortion and leave just the reverb. Sounds more like a reverb. So yeah, put those back in. So that's why I have my my reverb. And then I wanted that tail, it ends too soon, so I wanted that tail to kind of hold a bit, and so I had a delay, very slight ping pong delay, short feedback, pretty dry, just a bit of wetness. I'm at 8% of the wetness of the actual reverb signal, delay signal, sorry. I'm filtering it a bit, cutting at 4K, cutting at 610 Hertz. I have no analog on that, so it's basically just to get a bit of the tail running a bit more. I hope you can hear that. So yeah, then I opened that up a bit. Like I said, I like to add some imaging to my reverb, and so that's what I did. I used the S1 imager to add a bit of space to it, stereo enhancement. I didn't do any asymmetry to it because I have quite a few things running through it, and so I wanted to keep it in the middle and just open it up. And this is what it sounds like. Sounds a bit bigger. And then I had some compression to it. Yes, I had some compression to it. I used the MV2 on my delay and on my delays and reverbs if I want compression. I don't always have them. I don't always have it, but if I want compression, I prefer the MV2. And as you can see, it's very slight compression to the highs. So this is basically like a multi-band. I'm compressing the highs so that the tail also comes up more. It feels more. Yeah, I hope you get it. I hope you get it. I'm not like I didn't go to school for this, so my terminology is quite off and all that. But I hope you get the sound. So I'm gonna play it now with this compressor in it. All right, I hope you hear that, the effect of that reverb. So it feels more to me like a hall, the type of hall I was imagining in my mind while doing this. So, and then let's bring that mixer back. Okay, so yeah, that's it for my reverb, and that's what I did to my trombone. I did not set the reverb according to the trombone. I set the reverb according to the vocals, and then I had my trombone running through that. So I started with my vocals. Yes. And that's a question that Pete Mashiane asked, what my process was. I started with the vocals, and then I went to I didn't do the whole vocal chain. I did a bit of the vocals, and then I went to the bass guitar, and then I came back to finish up my vocals. I believe I did my trombone last even, yeah. But for convenience sake, it was easier to show the trombone first and then get to the other stuff. So I'm gonna then go to my vocals, because that's what people actually want to know about most. But I guess let me get to the bass as well, and then I'll make a separate video, because this is quite long. I'll make a separate video just for the vocals. Let me get to the bass, because that actually is part of why the sound feels live. And so let me fully answer that question. My bass guitar, I used a Native Instrument bass, and so let me basically take out any processing from it. Let's take that trombone out. This is what my bass sounded like. Alright, I run my bass through our bass sometimes, but not always. In this case, I might have done it in my actual production, which I do in Fruity Loops. Usually, not always, but yeah, this I did in Fruity Loops. Let's go to the bass, and then I wanted to smoothen that out, and so I added the CLA2A again to my bass, and this is what it sounded like. Without, with, and that's why the bass sounds like that. Sounds smoother with that. And then I had a copy of the signal of the bass run through an amp, a digital amp, obviously a software plugin type of amp, which is the CLA bass in this case. So I wanted a bit of that distortion from it. I basically just set this according to how I felt. As you can see, it's not a preset of any sort. I just tweaked around until I heard what I wanted. So without the amp, I was basically looking more for presence from this and more realness from it. I got the warmth and the bass that I wanted, and now I wanted a bit of that detail. Yes, detail. That's the word I'm looking for. And this is what happens with the amp. Well, ain't no shoving that back in the bar. Alright, let's mute those. We'll fix that reverb real soon. Yeah, I hope you get what's happening here. There's also another thing that's happening, which is I did some automating of the distortion in this CLA bass, because I wanted it then to have that aggression in the hook, which is busier, it has more energy, and then coming back into the verse, I wanted to have that hollow, smooth feel, and then I automated it to close off that distortion when it comes into the verse, and then I keep it in the second verse. I will explain that when I then get into the mixing of the verses. Sure. Thank you for watching this first part of Happy Family, and we'll get into the vocals with the next video. Sure.